Morning, children.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, ma'am.
Last class, we were learning about epithelial tissues and we learned about different types of epithelial tissues. A few we have already covered, a few more we need to discuss. So, who will tell me which are the two types of epithelial tissues we already discussed? Justin.
Okay.
Simple squamous epithelial tissue, stratified epithelial.
Very good. Okay. I never expected that you will, I thought you will say one and then you will think and then take time and say. Very good. Very prompt answering. Okay. What he said is exactly correct. We learned about the first type of epithelial tissue, that is squamous epithelial tissue. And under squamous epithelial tissue, we learned two types. Simple squamous and stratified squamous. And for stratified squamous, we learned only one example. Who will tell me that just one example where it is found?
Skin.
Somebody was saying the
Skin.
answer. Skin. Very good. Skin is the answer. And why do you call it stratified squamous epithelium? Any special reason?
Patterns of layers.
It has layers of pattern.
Very good. It's found in several layers. It's found in a pattern of layers. So today we are going to learn the remaining types of epithelial tissues. So let us start. So the second type of epithelial tissue, what you are going to learn is columnar epithelial tissue. So you know that you have drawn for your maths and all, not only for maths, you're familiar with the drawing rows and columns. Which one is row? 1 or 2? Second one. Which is row? Out of this, which is row and which one is column? First one is what? Row or column?
Column.
Column. Second is a row. So column, if you see, you can see the appearance is tall and pillar-like, isn't it? So they are, this one is tall and they look like pillar. So the appearance is tall and pillar-like. So similarly, the next one, the next epithelial tissue, what you're going to learn, they are also tall and pillar-like cells. Columnar epithelial tissue consists of tall pillar-like cells. You can see the picture given over there. And these are found in places where absorption and secretion takes place. You know that intestine is a region, especially small intestine, their absorption of digested nutrients takes place. Secretion of different digestive juices will be happening over there. So in places where absorption and secretion takes place, as in the inner lining of the intestine, you can find columnar epithelial tissue. Columnar epithelial tissue, they are tall pillar-like and you can find them in places where absorption and secretion takes place, as in the case of the inner lining of the intestine. Then, this is also found in our respiratory tract, respiratory passage. And those which are found in the respiratory tract, they are having some hair-like projections. And you can find a magnified, a microscopic view of columnar epithelium, and you can find those hair-like structures. You call them as cilia. These are cilia. Okay. So columnar epithelial tissue is even found in your respiratory tract. So those cells, those columnar epithelial cells found in the respiratory tract, they are provided with certain hair-like projections. What do you call them? Cilia. Singular is cilium. Cilium, plural is cilia. And now let's see what is the significance of having these structures in the respiratory tract. And these cilia, they are capable of moving. The cilia will beat, and what will happen? They will push the mucus forward. You know that in your respiratory tract, the mucus secretion takes place. Mucus can be released. You know the sticky secretion mucus. And if it is present, it can block your respiratory tract. But what these cilia will do, they will beat, they will move and enable the mucus to be pushed forward. Okay, and they will clear your respiratory tract. So where do you find ciliated columnar epithelium? In your respiratory tract. And what is its function? The cilia present can beat or they can move and they can push the mucus forward and clear your respiratory tract. Okay? So that was about the second type of epithelial tissue, columnar epithelial tissue. So once again, I will repeat the points. Where do you find them? In places where absorption and secretion takes place. One typical example is the inner lining of your intestine. Then, how do they look like? They are tall, pillar-like cells. Then we learned that in your respiratory tract, some specialized columnar epithelial cells are present. What is special about them? They have some hair-like projections. What do you call these hair-like projections? What do you call them, Revu? What do you call those hair-like projections? Cilia. And what these cilia will do? They will move and they will push the mucus forward and clear your respiratory tract. And such an epithelium, such columnar epithelial cells with cilia are known as columnar, ciliated columnar epithelial cells, and these cells form ciliated columnar epithelial tissue. Okay? Is that clear, children? Anybody want to see this again? No. Gauri Nanda? Shall I? Now the next one, the last, not the last, the third one. Cuboidal epithelial tissue. We have 4 different types of epithelial tissue. Now we are in the third one. Cuboidal. Cuboidal epithelial tissue. You all are learning maths. You know what is meant by a cube, isn't it? You know what is a cube. The appearance of a cube, you know. And the speciality of these epithelial cells are that, as you see in the picture, they consist of cube-like cells. The peculiarity is that their shape, peculiarities in their shape. They look like cubes, so the cells are cube-shaped, and you call such an epithelium as cuboidal epithelial tissue. And where do you find it? You can find it in the lining of kidney tubules and also in the ducts of salivary glands. Ducts means they are meant for passage. Salivary glands, you know, they secrete saliva. And saliva has to pass through these ducts. These are passages which will carry the saliva. So you can find them in the ducts of salivary glands and also in the lining of kidney tubules. And what function do they perform? They provide mechanical support. So what is the function of cuboidal epithelial tissue? To provide mechanical support. Where do you find them? In the lining of kidney tubules and ducts of salivary glands. How do they look like? They are cube-shaped cells. In appearance, they look like cubes. And we are moving on to the last type of epithelial tissue, that is glandular epithelial tissue. As the name suggests, it's having a gland. You know about salivary glands, digestive glands, liver is the largest gland. So you know what is the meaning of gland. Glands are some specialized structures which are capable of secreting something, producing some, releasing some secretions. Okay?
Can you show the last slide?
Wait, I will show you. Epithelial cells, sometimes they undergo some specialization and they form some gland cells. And these gland cells are capable of secreting substances at the surface of the epithelium. Once again, the epithelial cells, sometimes they can undergo specialization. some modification and they form gland cells which are capable of secreting certain substances. You can see here the epithelial tissue, they can fold some of the cells or a particular few cells or a portion of the epithelium. So these are the epithelial cells. So a portion of it is folding inward and they are forming a gland which are capable of secreting some substances. And this is a multicellular gland. You can see it is made up of several cells. So it's a multicellular gland. So once again, what is what is meant by glandular epithelium? Sometimes the epithelial cells, they will undergo specialization and they form gland cells which can secrete certain substances at the surface of the epithelium. A few cells can fold or a portion of the epithelium. How is it forming? A few of the epithelial cells, they will fold inward and they form a multicellular, means made up of many cells, and which will produce certain substance. They are capable of secreting some substances, and if the epithelium is provided with a gland or if they are having gland cells, you call it as glandular epithelium. And Ashik, who wanted to see the previous slide? So all the slides what we learned today I'll be showing you, and then you should be able to answer my questions. We started with columnar epithelial tissue, and where do you find them? In places where absorption and secretion takes place. One example, inner lining of the intestine. And what is special about the epithelial cells in respiratory tract? They are provided with hair-like projections known as cilia. What is the advantage of having cilia? They will move and push the mucus forward, clearing your respiratory tract. And then we learned about cuboidal epithelial tissue. What is special? Their shape is its peculiarity. They look like cubes. They consist of cube-shaped cells. What is its function? To provide mechanical support. Where do you find them? You find them in the lining of kidney tubules and in the ducts of salivary glands. Then we learned about the last type, that is glandular epithelium. If the epithelial tissue is provided with gland cells, you call it as glandular epithelium. What is its function? Capable of secreting some substances. How is it formed? A portion of the epithelial tissue, they can fold inward and they can form a multicellular gland. Such an epithelium, you call it as glandular epithelium. Any doubts? Any doubts? Children, I'm waiting for your response. You can say yes or no.
Cuboidal epithelial tissue once more.
Which one?
Cuboid.
Cuboidal. Cuboidal epithelial tissue, they consist of cube-shaped cells, and you find them in the lining of the kidney tubules and the ducts of salivary glands. Then the function is to provide mechanical support. So that is what we covered. With that, we have completed which one? Epithelial tissue. Already we have to learn 4 types of animal tissues. The first one we have completed. Which are the remaining 3, Abin? Abin Thompson? The first animal tissue we finished discussing. Which are the other 3? Abin, some connectivity issue? Your video is paused. Anthony, can you tell me which are the remaining 3 tissues we need to learn? Epithelial tissue we completed. In the beginning, when we discussed about animal tissues, I told we have 4 animal tissues to be discussed. And we completed the first one, epithelial tissue. Remaining 3, Anthony, can you say? The tissue present in your brain? Anthony, which tissue is present in your brain? It's not working, I think, that tissue now. Who can tell? Sania? Which are the remaining three we need to learn? Anthony, pay attention.
Connective, muscular,
Connective
nervous.
tissue,
Muscular tissue,
muscular tissue,
nervous tissue.
nervous tissue. Very good. Anthony, repeat it. You heard the answer? Anthony, you heard the answer? Say yes or no. Only then I'll come to know whether you are able to hear or not. You want it to be repeated? Yes, Anthony. Tell me now. Unmute first. Your voice is working fine. You need to speak out. The three types are connective, muscular, and nervous. Repeat it, Anthony. Oh, some problem with your voice. I think I can't hear you. But that yellow box is coming. Repeat once again. Let me see once again. I can't hear you. Some problem there. Find out what is the issue. Sri Hari, which are those three? All the four you say.
Okay. Epithelial tissue, connective tissue, muscular tissue, nervous tissue.
Okay. So we completed which one?
Epithelial.
Epithelial tissue. So the three types we covered, three types of epithelial tissues we covered today. The first one, squamous epithelium, we already covered in our previous class. So Adulya, which are the three types of epithelial tissues we discussed today?
Columnar epithelium tissue, cuboidal epithelium tissue, and glandular epithelium.
Very good. Okay. So tell me about the function of cuboidal epithelial tissue. Kshetra, what is the function of cuboidal epithelial tissue?
It provides mechanical support.
Very good. Very good. So that is the function is to provide mechanical support. And then we learned about columnar epithelial tissue. Say something about columnar epithelial tissue. Gauri, tell me something about columnar epithelial tissue.
It is found in the respiratory tract and they have hair-like projections called the cilia.
Yes. And what is the function of having cilia there in your respiratory tract? What is the function of the ciliated columnar epithelium? Revu.
And the cilia can move and support.
And when they move, what will happen?
Movement pushes these
mucus.
Mucus. Mucus.
And they will clear your respiratory tract. Okay? So they will beat, they'll push the mucus forward and clear your respiratory tract. You will repeat it again.
It can move and pushes the muscular
mucus
and it is known as the.
So what is the advantage of pushing the mucus forward? They will clear
the respiratory system.
Okay, respiratory tract. Okay, so that was about your columnar epithelial tissue. Which is the third one we learned? The last type of epithelial tissue we learned. Anjali Priya.
Glandular epithelial tissue.
Tell me something about glandular epithelial tissue.
Sometimes a portion of epithelial tissues fold inward and forms a multicellular gland.
Very good. What do they produce or what is its function?
Which on your videos?
Turn your videos on, children. Yes, Anjali, continue.
Epithelial cells often acquire additional specialization as
what
gland
do they produce?
cells.
What is its function? They'll secrete
substance at the epithelial tissue.
Okay. So we'll continue with the next tissue. Okay. So with that, we have completed glandular epithelial tissue. Now we are moving on to the second type of animal tissue. You call it as connective tissue. So first we will learn some features about, some common features about connective tissue, and then we will learn the different types of connective tissues. Okay, so please note down the points. And the cells of the connective tissue, they are loosely spaced, which means they are spaced or they are arranged with gaps in between. They are widely spaced, not very tightly packed, they are loosely packed. That is the first point you should know. In connective tissue, the cells are loosely spaced and they are embedded in a intercellular matrix. Intercellular means in between the cells. So in the beginning itself, I told you the cells are widely spaced and in between their cells, there is a substance present. You call it as matrix. And why you call it as intercellular matrix? Because it is present in between the cells. Got the point? In connective tissue, the cells are loosely or they are widely spaced, or enough gap or enough space is there in between, and these spaces are filled up by a substance and you call it as matrix. And since this matrix is present in between the cells, you call it as intercellular matrix. Intercellular means in between. Okay. And this matrix, the matrix present, it can be, its nature can be different or its texture can be different. So depending upon the function of the connective tissue or depending upon the function, the connective tissue has to perform, the matrix can be of different types. Okay, so the matrix will not remain the same for all the types of connective tissue. Each type of connective tissue is having a different type of intercellular matrix. It can be jelly-like, it can be fluid type, it can be very thick, dense and rigid. Stiff and rigid type of matrix can be there, or it can be very fluidy type, or it can be gel-like. And all that depends on the function the connective tissue has to perform. Once again, I will summarize the points what we discussed. The cells are loosely spaced or widely spaced, and what is present in between the cells? An intercellular matrix. And what is the nature of this intercellular matrix? It can be of different types. It can be jelly-like, it can be fluid, it can be dense or rigid. And what decides the matrix? The function of the connective tissue decides the nature or the type of the matrix. And some of the examples, you will be learning about each of these connective tissues in detail. The first one, blood, bones, cartilage, ligament, tendon, areolar tissue, and adipose tissue. Don't worry about these examples. When you learn about each one in detail, you will become thorough. Blood, bone and cartilage, tendon and ligament, areolar and adipose tissue. Now just be familiar with the names. Details you will be learning where they are present, what is its nature, what function do they perform. Each one you will be learning. Now just learn the names. First one is blood, then bone and cartilage, tendon and ligament, areolar and adipose tissue. You can learn them in pairs because these names are somewhat similar names. So you will be able to recollect it fast. Blood, first one. Then bone and cartilage, you know, both are parts of your, which gives a framework to your body. Bone as well as cartilage. Then tendon and ligament. Both of them are fibrous tissues. You'll be learning more about it. And the last two, areolar tissue and adipose tissue. Adipose tissue, areolar tissue, tendon, ligament, bone, cartilage, and blood. We'll start with blood. Okay. Hope the points are clear. No doubts. I'll proceeding to the next slide. First one is about blood. This is a fluid connective tissue. You call blood as a fluid connective tissue. Why? Because its matrix is fluid. It's of fluid type. In the beginning itself, we learned that the matrix can be fluid, jelly-like, dense, rigid. Here in this connective tissue, the matrix is fluid. And what do you call the fluid matrix? That is known as plasma. And scattered in the plasma, you can find 3 types of cells. I think you're familiar with this. Have you learned about the different types of cells in blood?
Yes.
Yes. So the first one is red blood cell. Second, white blood cells. And the last one, platelets. Red blood cells, white blood cells, and blood platelets. So once again, the first connective tissue we need to learn is blood. What is special about blood? It's unique because it's having a fluid matrix. So if it is asked, name the fluid connective tissue in your body, your answer should be what? Anjali, what is the answer?
Blood.
Yes, it should be blood. So blood is a fluid connective tissue. And what do you call the fluid matrix of blood? You call it as plasma. And there are 3 types of cells: red blood cells, white blood cells, and blood platelets. Even though the function is not mentioned in your textbook, I think you're familiar with the functions. Have you learned about the functions of each one, children? Yes or no? Red blood cells. Anybody have an idea what is the function of red blood cells? No. Okay. So red blood cells, they help in transporting oxygen. So red blood cells, they have a pigment. Have you heard about that? Anybody? Have you heard about the pigment present in your blood?
Yes, ma'am.
What is the name?
Yes.
What is the name?
Hemoglobin.
Very good. Hemoglobin. It's red in color like the ink with which I am writing. So it's a red pigment. And this will help in transporting oxygen because of hemoglobin present. Red blood cell, they will transport oxygen. Its function is to transport oxygen. Okay. And it also gives red color. As you know, it's a red color pigment, gives red color. Now, white blood cells. White blood cells, they are the soldiers of your body. Just like the soldiers of our country protect your country, similarly, these soldiers inside your body, they protect you from infections, from disease-causing germs, they will protect you. Then, the last one, platelets. Platelets will help in the clotting of blood. Have you heard about clotting?
Yes.
When you get hurt somewhere as you're playing, you might get hurt. So in the beginning, the blood starts to ooze out, but it will stop after some time. And slowly, you will find that a patch is getting formed, which is sealing your blood vessel. And the color of that patch will slowly change its color. It becomes dark maroonish color. And later, once your wound is healed, that will be shed off. So that is known as a clot. And this clot formation, the cells behind the clotting of blood or the clot formation, they are platelets. Okay. Once again, we will repeat. We learned about the first type of connective tissue. What do you call the first type of connective tissue? Blood. What type of connective tissue? It's a fluid connective tissue. Why do you call it as a fluid connective tissue? Because it is having a fluid matrix. What do you call the fluid matrix of blood? Plasma. And scattered in the plasma, there are 3 types of cells: RBC or red blood cells, WBC, white blood cells, or blood platelets. And let's see the functions. Red blood cells will help in transporting oxygen. Which is the pigment present? Hemoglobin. And white blood cells will protect you from infections or disease-causing organisms. And platelets, they help in the clotting of blood. And previous slide, once again, I will show you. After that, we'll have the review questions. Okay? Cells of connective tissue, loosely spaced. They have an intercellular matrix, and the matrix can be jelly-like, fluid, dense, rigid, etc. What decides the matrix? The function of the cells. So what decides the matrix? The matrix depends upon the function these cells have to perform. Then, which are the different types? A few examples: blood, bone, cartilage, tendon, ligament, areolar tissue, and adipose tissue. Those terms which are not familiar, don't worry, we'll be learning about each one. Any doubts? Children, do you have any doubts?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So about which tissue we discussed just now? Emerin, which tissue we were discussing?
Connective tissue.
Yes, connective tissue. What is one point about connective tissue? Can you say any one point?
They are filled with matrix.
They are having a matrix or intercellular matrix. And how are the cells arranged there, Bastin? How are the cells arranged? And those whose videos are off, you turn it on, children. Genuine reasons, you can use the chat box to inform me. Yes, Bastin? How are the cells arranged?
Yes, ma'am.
How are the cells in a connective tissue arranged? Are they tightly packed? Unmute and say.
Loosely packed.
Yes, they are loosely spaced. And what decides the nature of the matrix? Atulya, what decides the nature of the matrix?
The function they depend upon
Yes, the function they have to perform. So the matrix can be of different types. I suggested a few types of matrix. Which are those? Justin, the matrix can be in which all forms?
Jelly-like form.
Jelly-like? Only jelly-like. In blood, what type it is?
A fluid-like,
Okay.
fluid.
Okay, good. Jelly-like, fluid, dense or rigid. And we learned about one connective tissue which is having a fluid matrix. Srihari?
Ma'am, blood.
A blood. And what do you call the matrix in blood, Srihari?
Ma'am, plasma.
Plasma. Which are the three types, not for you, which are the three types of cells scattered in this matrix plasma? Abin, three types of cells.
RBC, red blood cells, and
Red blood cells.
WBC, white blood cells,
Very
and
good.
platelets.
One more. Platelets. Give me the function of these platelets. Sean, what is the function of platelets?
It helps in coating of blood.
Very good, very good. And white blood cells, Kshetra, white blood cells?
They help in fighting disease-causing germs.
Good. And red blood cells, who will tell me? Ashik, red blood cells, what is its function?
Yes, ma'am.
What is the function of red blood cells? Do you know the answer?
No, ma'am.
Wait. Lakshmi Nanda, tell me what is the function of red blood cells? Lakshmi's video is post? No. What is the function of red blood cells?
They helps in oxygen.
Helps in transporting oxygen. Repeat it. Repeat that.
They helps in transporting oxygen.
They help in transporting oxygen. Ashik will repeat it. Ashik, repeat.
They help in transporting oxygen to all parts of body.
So relay went in between. Okay, good. Thank you, children. We'll wind up.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.